Okay, so are you there? Can you hear me?
Now, yes, I can hear you.
All right. Well, today we're going to continue working on the speaking section. We're going to be seeing the next question of the speaking section.
Okay.
So far, we said that we had 4 questions in the speaking section. We said there were 4. The first one was the one that we were working on last week, the independent question, which asked you to talk about your opinion about a certain topic. That was the first question. And now we're going to start with the integrated questions. We're going to start with question 2 of the speaking section today, which is already an integrated task. So let's see.
It's already what?
An integrated task. That means
integrated.
yes, means that you will have to read something, hear something, and summarize certain content. So basically, in this question, what you will have to do is, first step is read a letter. So you will have to read a short text, a very short text, which is about something going on in an American university. So you will have 45 seconds exactly to read this letter. Then after you read the letter, you will be hearing a conversation. And you will hear a conversation where 2 students are going to be talking about the letter that you read. Now, this conversation is about 1 minute long. And after you hear the conversation, you will get the question. You will get 30 seconds to prepare your response and 1 minute or 60 seconds to speak. So again, you read a text for 45 seconds, then you hear a conversation, and finally, you get 30 seconds to prepare and 60 seconds or 1 minute to speak. Okay. Is that okay so far? Any questions?
Yes. So how is always a bit sound after to get my answer?
Yes, I'm sorry. You will always hear a beep after, before you give your answer, right? They will say something like, start speaking after the beep. And then you hear a sound, beep, and you need to start speaking.
And
Is that what you...
And for the preparation time also?
Yes, you will have the same in the preparation.
Okay, gotcha.
We're going to see a video with an example so that you see exactly how it will be the day of your test, how it will look like on your screen.
Number 2. In this question, you will read a short passage about a campus situation and then listen to a talk on the same topic. You will then answer a question using information from both the reading passage and the talk. After the question, you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response and 60 seconds to speak. The university is making a change in the courses it will offer. Read the article from the university newspaper about the change. You will have 45 seconds to read the article. Begin reading now.
So they show you the reading, they show you the timer for 45 seconds. It starts counting down. Then
now listen to 2 students discussing the article. Everything all right?
so you hear the conversation. You can't see anything. You just see a picture when you're hearing the conversation. And after the conversation is over, you get this.
The woman expresses her opinion of the university's plan. State her opinion and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion.
Begin to prepare your response after the beep. Begin speaking after the beep.
So that's how it's going to be. Exactly like that. And then the 60 seconds are over, you have to stop speaking and they will move on to the next question.
Okay.
Okay. So no questions then before we start looking at the example?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So let's start looking at that example. We're going to be working on the same one that we had in the video. So this is the text that you would have to read, and technically you would have 45 seconds to read it. Right now, I'm going to give you 1 minute. Just read the text, don't take any notes, and then we'll discuss what it's about and what we have to do here when we read.
Okay.
Okay. So, what do you think this text is about? What are they saying in this text?
Sorry, I don't listen. I didn't listen.
What is this text about?
This talks about a course that was eliminated, a sculpture course.
A course that will be eliminated in the future, right?
Okay.
It's a plan for the future.
Yeah. Will be eliminated because there are not too much student interest in this course.
Yes. So they say that it's a campus situation, but to be more precise, it's always going to be a change in the university. A change. It's always going to be a change. So let's say they're changing something. They could be adding a new class, eliminating a class, changing the schedule, changing the menu of the cafeteria, changing the bus service. But there's always going to be a change. So the first thing that you guys need to do when you get the text, read the title, but don't copy the title because you won't always have the most important part there. You have to look for the change. As soon as you get the text, you start reading around and you look for the change. Let's say in this case, you would just have to read the first sentence. University administrators announced yesterday that the sculpture program will be eliminated. You find that change and you have to stop reading. You don't continue reading, you stop there. You read until then, and then you take notes about the change. So you will write down in your notes, sculpture eliminated, right? That's the change. That is the first and most important part from the reading. That is what you need to make sure that you have the change. Then after you guys already have taken notes of that, you can continue reading. And as Erasmo was saying here in the rest of the text, you guys will find 2 reasons for the change. So 2 reasons why this change is happening. So you already told me the first reason, right? You said students are not interested in taking these classes. That's the one reason why they are eliminating this course, right? There's a lack of students' interest. What is the second reason? Why else are they eliminating this course? The first reason is that there's supposedly a lack of students' interest. What about the second reason? What is the second reason?
The second change is about the professor.
The sculpture professor is retiring. It's not the second change, it's the second reason for the change.
Okay.
So yes, you will always have that structure. You will always have a change in the university. In this case, they are eliminating the sculpture program, and you'll have two reasons. In this case, because of the lack of students' interest, and because the professor is retiring. So the reasons are not necessary to, they don't need to be in your notes. So it's okay if you don't take notes about the reasons, but it's important that you at least read them and make sure that you understand what they are, even if you don't take notes. Okay, guys? But the most important part for you to have is always going to be the change. And that's what you do when you're reading. So is that okay so far? Do you have any questions about this? Okay. Now, after you read for 45 seconds, you will have to listen to a conversation. We said, in this conversation, you guys are going to hear two students from the same university, and they are going to be discussing the announcement that you just read. They are going to be talking about the text that you read. Now, there's always going to be a female and a male student, always female and male. Now, here's the thing. One of these two students, only one of them, will have a very strong opinion about the change. It could be the female, it could be the man. But one of them will have a strong opinion. One of them could be either in favor of the change and be like, that's a great idea, or be against the change and be like, that's something terrible. So what you guys need to do, first of all, is identify who is the main student. Who is the student that has the opinion? Is he the female or is he the male student? So identify who the student is. And as soon as you guys identify that, you write down the pronoun in big letters in your notes. So if it's the female student, you will write down she. If it's the male, you write down he. It's important so that you don't get confused later. Then after you know what student we are talking about, what you have to do is look or identify the opinion that this student has about the change. So is this a student in favor or against the idea? Is this a student in favor of the idea of eliminating the program or against? That's the second thing that you guys need to understand when listening to the conversation. And finally, no matter what position or what opinion this student has, they will always give you two other reasons. So aside from the ones that you already had in the reading, you will have two more reasons supporting the student's opinion. So if the student is in favor and is like, that's good, he will or she will give you two other reasons. And if the student is against, then you will have two reasons against the change. Okay, so your job is to identify who the main student is, understand his or her opinion, and understand his or her reasons for holding that opinion. Okay, guys, of course you need to take notes. You will only be able to hear the conversation once. So you gotta take notes and you need to take organized notes. Is that okay so far? Any questions now?
We had to talk about the 4 reasons, 2 of the reading, 2 of the listening.
Not necessarily, no. You have to focus more when you're speaking, you have to focus more on the student's reasons. But you do have to try to draw the connection between the 4 reasons. Now, the thing is, most of the time, the reasons that the student will give will be related to the reasons that you had in the in the reading. So if the reading was talking about lack of students' interest, the student will say something about that. If the student talked about the professor retiring, or if the reading talked about the professor retiring, the student will also say something about that. So we're going to see what exactly you have to do. But no, you won't need to talk about everything. You need to summarize the ideas when you're speaking.
Okay.
Any other question? Okay. So let's now hear the conversation. Please be ready to take notes. I'm going to play.
Now listen to two students discussing the article.
Everything all right?
Yeah, I'm just upset about that article I showed you this morning.
Why? What's the big deal?
Well, as an art major, I think it's a big loss for the department. The university's got it all wrong.
What do you mean?
Well, the low enrollment isn't because art majors don't want to take these classes. Problem is, who has time to take them when there are so many other requirements?
I don't understand.
See, the classes they're eliminating are all optional. The required courses are mostly painting and drawing, and they take up all our time. What we really need are different requirements. Then art majors could take a better variety of classes, all the things we're interested in.
That makes sense. But the thing about the professor...
Well, that's true. But still, they're being drastic. If money's the problem, they could hire a part-time professor. Or most of the professors in the department have secondary fields.
Really?
Yeah. At least a few painting teachers are also great sculptors. I'm sure one of them could teach a class.
Okay. All right. So if we talk about the conversation, we already know the part from the reading, right? The sculpture course will be eliminated because of the lack of interest and because the professor's retiring. But what about the students' conversation? First of all, who was the main student? Was he the guy or the girl?
Female.
So in that case, we would have to write down the word she so that you don't get confused with the pronouns later. Now, was she against or in favor of this change?
Against.
Exactly, she was against, she didn't like it. Against. All right. Now, can you tell me why? What was the first reason that she gave?
Something about requirements.
Yeah.
They don't have time and they need a lot of requirements. And it's an optional subject, I think.
Okay, yes, correct. Anything else? Okay, good. So yes, totally. She says that it's not true that students don't want to take this sculpture course. It's not true that there's a lack of interest. She says that what happens is that art students don't have time because of the many requirements they have to meet, many required classes they have to take. And a sculpture is optional, as we says. So they don't have time to take these optional courses. What they need, according to her, is different requirements so that they can take better or a wider variety of classes. What about the second reason? What does she think about the fact that the professor's retiring?
they can hear a part-time professor, and also the other professors can have a second file. There are professors that are good in sculptures.
Exactly, yes. So great. She says that yes, it's true that maybe money is a problem, but if that is the case, then they could hire a part-time professor or ask another professor from the department to teach this craft. Exactly. So yes, that's it. As you guys can see, that's the structure that we talked about in the listening. It's similar to the reading. It's like a response to the reading, right? So is that okay, you guys? Do you have any questions now? Okay, good. Now the question is always going to be the same. The question is, the woman expresses her opinion of the change that has been announced, state her opinion, and explain her reasons for holding that opinion. So, in the question, as you guys can see, they are mostly asking you to talk about the student. They want you to focus more on the woman, on the student, rather than the university or the reading part. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to state her opinion and we're going to explain her reasons. Exactly that. Remember that now you will have 30 seconds to prepare your response. During these 30 seconds, you guys can do whatever you want. They won't be recording any of what you do there. It depends on what you think you need to do. Because, like, for example, in my case, what I did during those 30 seconds was I organized my notes. Because what happens is that I personally take a lot of notes. And then when I'm speaking, I want to sort of use all of the notes that I have. And that's obviously not a good idea because you need to classify relevant information and irrelevant information. So what I did during those 30 seconds was cross out a few ideas that I didn't need to mention when I was speaking and perhaps highlight others that were important for me to mention. So that's one thing you guys can do. You can work on your notes, cross out a few ideas, circle, underline a few others, highlight other ideas. You can also start rehearsing, start putting the words together in order to come up with good sentences and articulate correctly. That's another idea. It depends, again, on what you guys need to do. Okay, guys? But what we are going to do, I mean, all of us, is we're going to answer in the same way during the 60 seconds. So let's talk about the response time and what to do with it. We will have a template. This is going to be our template. And what we're going to do is pretty simple. You guys will see. First of all, we will need a short introduction. This introduction should be no more than 10 seconds, and it's just practicing until you get it into your 10 seconds. What you guys are going to do in the introduction is, first of all, you're going to state the student's opinion. That was the first part of the question. You're going to state the student's opinion, whether she or he supports or is against that change. And obviously, you need to give some context, because if you just say the student likes the idea and you don't say what idea, then the person who's listening to you will be like lost. So you better give some context. So in your introduction, you guys will mention the opinion of the student, whether in favor or against, and the idea, the plan or the change. Okay? In this case, you guys could say, the student in the conversation is against the idea of eliminating the sculpture program. Okay? So that is your introduction. It should be no more than 10 seconds. Is that okay so far? Any questions about that intro? Okay. Now, after the introduction, you will have 50 seconds left. So during these 50 seconds, you're going to use 25 to talk about the first reason that the student gives, And you will use the other 25 to talk about the second reason that the student gives. All right, so you just use a template. You need to have a couple of transitions. First of all, in addition, you need to use the correct pronoun, she, and you need to use some reporting verbs, like she explains, she believes, she says, she thinks, she claims, she argues, she mentions, right? You just need to make sure that you use these reporting verbs in the simple present because these are not your ideas. You can take the credit. You can say something without saying that it's something that she said. Okay, so that's all you need, to be honest, and you're good. You explain both ideas, try to divide your time proportionately, and that should be your 60 seconds, and you're good to go. Is that okay? Do you have any questions about that?
No,
Okay.
miss.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna give you guys an example. I'm gonna try with this question with the timer on so that you can see how I organize my time, the things that I say, the things that I don't, how I present the information, and so forth. All right. So here's a timer. Let's see. It will be something like this. The student in the conversation is against the idea of eliminating the sculpture program in the university. First of all, she explains that it isn't true that students are not interested in taking this class. What happens is, she explains, that most art majors do not have the time to take the optional courses, such as the sculpture class, since they are too busy taking the required courses, which are mostly painting or drawing, and those take up all of their time. In addition, she believes that if the professor is retiring and they have a limited budget, what the university could do is hire a part-time professor or maybe ask another professor from the department to teach this class. For all professors, or most professors, have secondary fields, and there are a couple of good sculptors in the department as well. Okay. So as you guys can see, I try to organize my time in the way that I told you to, 10 seconds for the intro, 25 and 25. I'm constantly looking at the timer so that I can accommodate my response to the timer, right? I try to use those transitions, first of all, in addition, and I try to use better connectors than because, but, right? So however, as a result, for, since, and that's it. I summarize the ideas. I included a couple of details, but I tried to mostly summarize the ideas. Okay, guys, there's no conclusion. You don't need a conclusion. If you were to have some extra time, you can try a short conclusion. You can say, these are the two main reasons why the student feels this way, for example. Okay, guys, but it's not necessary to have a conclusion. So what do you think now? Do you have any questions now that you've also heard my response? Okay, some tips that I can give you here. First of all, and this is related to grammar, after this preposition of, if you guys are going to use a verb, it has to be in the ing form, always with ing. Remember, changes are actions, right? And actions are verbs. Los cambios son acciones, y las acciones son verbos. So usually, most of the time, you will have a main verb in the text. Siempre hay un verbo principal. El cambio siempre es un verbo, ¿no? Eliminar un curso, contratar a un profesor, añadir una clase, cambiar el horario. No sé, siempre es un verbo. So my advice is going to be look for the main verb. In this case, the verb is eliminate or discontinue. Cualquiera de los dos. Ese es el verbo. Y ese verbo utilícenlo. So she is against the idea of eliminating, of discontinuing the sculpture program. Okay, so careful there. Si van a usar un verbo, que es muy probable que lo usen, tiene que estar siempre con ing. Si no, la gramática no estaría correcta. Y otra cosa, traten de conectar un poquito las ideas, and this is related to what Erasmus was saying. So, you don't need to mention the 4 reasons, but if you guys can find a way to connect them, it would be great. For example, when I was speaking, what I said was, first of all, she explains that it's not true that students are not interested, right? So what I'm doing there is I'm connecting the reasons. I am mentioning implicitly the reason that the university gave. It's not true that students don't want to take these courses. Instead, they don't have the time to take them. Same thing here. In addition, she believes that if they don't have money to hire a new professor, they could hire a part-time professor, right? So I am referring back to the reason mentioned in the video. So that's an idea. You can try to connect the ideas. You can use conditional sentences. If money is the problem, they could hire a part-time professor. You can use compound sentences. Even though the professor is retiring, the university has the option of, even if the professor is retiring, although the professor is retiring, you can use those words, those phrases to connect your ideas. And one more thing, careful with the verb tenses. Your verb tenses, not always, but usually will have to be in the future or as a model, because we're talking about future plans, right? The students will, I don't know, in this case, they could hire a part-time professor. It's an imaginary situation, right? They could. I'm not saying they can hire or they hire. Right? So maybe careful with those aspects, but I think that would be it. Then everything else is always going to be the same. Is that okay now? Any questions? Okay. So let's do another one to practice. Okay. So let's start with this one here. Remember that you have 45 seconds to read the text. So let's see. Okay, guys. So please, you may begin reading now.
Now listen to two students discussing the announcement.
Do you believe any of this? It's ridiculous.
What do you mean? Well, it is important to eat healthy foods.
Sure it is. But they're saying yogurt's better for you than an omelet or than hot cereal? I mean, whether something's hot or cold, that shouldn't be the issue. Except maybe on a really cold morning. In that case, which is going to be better for you, a bowl of cold cereal or a nice warm omelet? It's obvious. There's no question.
No, I'm not going to argue with you there.
And this whole thing about saving money.
What about it?
Well, they're actually going to make things worse for us, not better. Because if they start cutting back and we can't get what we want right here on campus, well, we're going to be going off campus and pay off-campus prices. And you know what? That'll be expensive. Even if it's only 2 or 3 mornings a week, it can add up.
Right? Now the question says, the woman expresses her opinion of the change that has been announced. State her opinion and explain her reasons for holding that opinion. Now you guys will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so is there anyone who would like to go first, who would like to try by any chance?
We try.
Okay, perfect. So go ahead, please.
Okay. The student conversations, it's again the idea of eliminating the breakfast, hot breakfast. First of all, she explained how a yogurt or an omelette can be in the same in terms of health. It's not a big difference. And in addition, she believes that for save money, you can shop your food cheaper outside the university. That is not true that it's cheaper, it's really expensive to pay that food in this kind of breakfast.
Okay, great, Erasmo, well done. So the structure was perfect. Starting from the way you introduced the idea, your grammar was good in the introduction, and the way you manage your time as well. The ideas were also really good. They were accurate. The first one was good. So and I like how you gave the details to explain the idea, right? A yogurt and an omelette, they are equally healthy. It's not because something's hot or cold, it means that it's healthier. As for the second one, maybe in terms of content, I think there was a misunderstanding there, because the student says that what will happen is that if students can get the food that they want inside the university, they are going to go off campus outside of the university to buy their food or to buy breakfast. And they're going to pay these prices that are obviously more expensive than buying the food in the university. So in the long term, they won't save time or save money, sorry, right, as the university. So only that, to be honest, that idea was a little bit inaccurate, but other than that, I don't think I have any comments. It was a great response. Well done. Okay, good. So in this case, the student also disagreed, right? Was against. Let's see if we can find an example where the student agrees so that we get to see that as well. Okay. So let's do this one now. It will be exactly the same. You guys will have 45 seconds to read the text.
Now listen to two students discussing the article.
What do you think of the proposal?
I think it'll work. I mean, the range of the station now is basically limited to the campus, and so it's basically just a few programs, mainly for students.
Yeah?
Well, if this proposal goes through, there will be more programs, and it'll give the students more professional experience as they experiment with programming for a much larger, real-life audience. And stuff like that'll give them a better shot at getting a job after they graduate.
Of course.
Besides, the whole university will benefit from it.
What do you mean?
Well, you know my friend Tony, right? He told me that the radio station at his university did something like this about 5 years ago.
And?
Well, it's a success. They are making a lot of money out of commercials, and they are using it to offer more scholarships and to help fund projects to renovate the facilities of other programs.
That sounds really good.
Okay. Now, the woman supports the proposal described in the article. Explain why she thinks it will achieve the university's goals. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. Oh, I think you're going to have to be the one that tries again. Okay. Please, you may start speaking now.
Please go out right now.
I'm sorry?
Please was go out. He's
Oh,
recently joined.
hi, Luis. You there?
Yes, miss. My internet was not working well.
Okay, no, don't worry about it. So are you ready?
I didn't hear the audio, miss.
Okay. Did you get to read the text?
No, miss.
Okay. Okay. So maybe you can try ask one next time Luis can go.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Okay, the student in the conversations support the idea of the change of the radio programs in the university. First of all, she explains that if the program worked really well, the student had more opportunities to get or improve her professional careers after their graduations. And in addition, she believes that if the programs work well, the commercials can get money to the university to print some scholarship or enhance their facilities in the university.
Okay, good. Enhance their facilities, right? In the university. Enhance the university's facilities. Okay, good, really well done. So content is perfect. You show understanding of the main ideas in the conversation, the opinion, sorry, the change and the two reasons. So getting more experience for students and also more funds for the university to improve the facilities, to give scholarships and stuff. I don't think I have any comments. Maybe for the grammar part, I noticed you were using conditionals. It's a great idea to use them, but careful with the grammar. Remember that in the conditional sentence, you need to conjugate, well, depending on which conditional. But in this case, you would have to use either the first or the second condition. So you would have to say, the program works well, simple present, if the program works well, and then future, right? Students will have more experience. The university will get money. Or second conditional, if the program worked well, the university would get more money. One of the two, practice the conditional structure. Only that, and to be honest, I couldn't really hear what you said in your introduction in the change. What exactly did you say? Against the idea of?
What did I say? I said on the change of program body. I didn't get the idea of the reading and just say change of program body.
Okay, it's fine. It's against the idea of. If you're going to say change, it's fine as well, but just say it's against the changes maybe to the radio station. Or in this case, always look for the verb. The student in the conversation is against the idea of making changes to the college radio station, or is in favor of the idea of making changes to the college radio station. Always look for the verb.
Good.
But it was good. Okay. Any questions so far? Let's try another one then. Let's do this. It will be exactly the same. You guys will have 45 seconds now to read the text.
Now listen to two students discussing the article.
So what do you think of the university's new plan?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think it's going to work.
No?
I mean, I can't imagine top students being too thrilled about some of the conditions on this campus.
What do you mean?
Like the science laboratories having such old, outdated equipment, and the library needing more books, and the student center being so small. I think that the $2 million could be spent in better places if the university is really serious about achieving its goal.
Okay, but what about the other reason for building the stadium? I mean, right now we have so little contact with the town.
Yeah, but this won't help relations. Look, people from town hardly ever come to games because our teams always lose, and they're not suddenly going to improve overnight. Besides, adding seats won't make a difference. I mean, if people from town didn't come before, they won't come now just because the place is bigger.
Okay. Now the woman expresses her opinion about the university's plan, state her opinion, and explain the reasons she gives for holding that opinion. Now you guys will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay. So, Luis, please. Are you ready now?
Give me.
Okay. You may start speaking now.
Okay, the student in the conversation is against of idea of build and pay for a new stadium. First of all, she explains that the top students won't go to the university because they don't have they don't have a they need more books on science laboratory or the other subjects, and they can spend better in other places in the university. And the relation, in addition, she believes that the relation
Okay. I mean, well done. I mean, I think you were struggling a little bit in finding the right words to express the idea, because I can see that you understood the idea and you said it at the end, they can spend this money in better places. Always, my advice is when you guys are listening to the conversation, there's always going to be one part specifically where the student summarizes everything for every reason. So try not to go for the details, like let's say the library workspaces or the science laboratories. Those are details. Try to always listen and catch and take notes on the big ideas. And they are usually in the beginning and at the end of every reason. So she says, as you said, it's not a good idea because this money could be spent in better places. That's the big idea. And then you have the details, such as the library, laboratories, books, and so forth. But always start with the big idea and the details are optional. That way you will have more time to go with the second reason that you were missing. Although you had it, right? The relationships are not going to be improved just because the place is big. The team always loses, and that's why people from town don't come to the games. So careful there, try to always summarize the ideas a little bit more. You're trying to maybe paraphrase the ideas too much, but remember you can always write them down and say them in the exact same way that you have it on your notes. So it's just practicing, I would say, but in general, try to be very attentive to those summaries of the reasons. Okay. And don't worry, because we'll continue practicing on Tuesday in this case. But what do you guys think so far about this question?
So it's hard because the mix of reading and listening is really fast. I think is time management and try to get all the better summary of the idea.
Yes, It is, I mean, the skills you need here, as you say, first, time management, and second, summarizing, as we said, summarizing the ideas, not focusing too much on the details, and practicing, of course. I don't know, some students think it's easier in a way because you don't have to think of your own ideas, right? Like in the first question, you needed to think of a reason and an example and make up stories. In this case, it's just paying attention and being able to express those ideas, but it still has its difficulty, I would say. But everything is practice to me.
Yeah, that's true. And also that this template worked really well, I think.
Yes, having a template helps because it kind of triggers you to say something. And if once you memorize it and you know the structure, you won't need it anymore. But yes, initially I do recommend that you guys try to use a template in practice.
Do you have a summary of the whole template of the task?
Of all the speaking questions, you mean?
Yes.
It's in the presentation. It's not summarized. It's not in just one slide, but I can put them all together in one document if you want.
Okay, but where can I find this spreadsheet?
This person,
Mm-hmm.
I think I sent it to the WhatsApp chat before. But anyways, I'm sending you the link again. The entire speaking section is here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Guys, any other question? Okay, then before you go, please don't forget today's survey. And I'll see you guys next week. I hope you have a great weekend.
Bye, Miss.
Bye bye, Luis. Take care. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Miss. See you next week.